The Michigan Department of Mental Health is pushing very hard to get the mentally retarded out of large impersonal institutions and place them in neighborhoods, perhaps next door to you. But some people are very upset about their new neighbors, and they want this kind of thing stopped.
We need to have a moratorium on the whole adult foster care mess until we've researched it out and checked it out.
Good evening, everybody. This is Bill Bonds, and those are the two stories we're going to be looking at tonight on Channel 7's Special Report. Adults in what is called a group home. The rage expressed here is virtually the same reaction that can be found in other suburban areas where adult foster care homes are being developed. Homeowners have hired lawyers to fight against these homes located in their neighborhoods. Here in Taylor, some of the people have even taken it into their own hands to get the message across. Janet Flavin and her family are among those who are totally against the Michigan Department of Mental Health's program to move the retarded out of institutions and into community living. The Flavins live in Novi, where the homes start at about $75,000, a tree-lined community where people built their own homes. You might even say it's an escape from the hassles of big city living. A dream existence, at least it was until a group home moved in next door.
It's been quiet for like 4 or 5 days now. But that's my big contention. It's like living on a volcano.
The address is 41548 Tomorrow. And this is the controversy. This is the home that is causing Janet Flavin and some of her neighbors so many problems, at least according to them. Tomorrow House is an adult foster care home for the retarded. It opened in February of this year, and from that day on, at least according to Janet Flavin, life in Orchard Hills subdivision just hasn't been the same.
What is your main objection to Tomorrow House next door? What is it most that you dislike about it?
My fears and my concerns for my children, raising them here, because we've witnessed violence, and I've been told there's violence over there from the caretakers. Pulling hair, the patients would grab the girl's hair, pull her head and hit her head up against the brick wall. I've seen them take swings at the girl caretakers. Mm-hmm. Luckily, he missed her. She had to duck. Biting, because they were sitting on one of the patients to restrain him out in the backyard.
One of your criticisms seems to be that while the state says that the staff over there is qualified, that when you have young men yelling vulgarities and obscenities outdoor for long periods of time, that the staff does not respond, does not fix the problem.
We don't very seldom hear from any other normal house in the neighborhood obscenities being yelled at the top of their lungs for a half an hour. That I've witnessed.
So that there isn't the supervision that you say the state keeps telling you exists?
Exactly.
Take your time. Next door, one of the young men who lives in Tomorrow House was playing basketball, so we joined him on the court. One more. How old you tell me you were?
I'm 19 only.
19. This is your first day in this new house, eh?
Yeah, I'm 19.
So you like it out here?
Good.
Hi, Al. Bill Bonds. Nice to see you. You play that?
Yeah.
Why don't you give us a little, what's your favorite song? Give us a... Go ahead, play a little for us. Make this your television debut.
Yeah. Nice to do this guy.
Good. All right. Hi, Dennis.
I'm a big cop.
You're a big cop? You are?
Yeah.
I've had trouble with cops before. I'm not going to kid you. It was not easy for me to communicate with these young men. My heart went out to them. I couldn't help feeling for their simple wants and needs, and feeling for Janet Flavin's needs and fears. And it was important for me to look into the problems of Tomorrow House. The social worker in charge came over. She was hesitant about discussing the home and refused to answer any questions about the neighbors' complaints.
I just feel that there are certain things that would be better to get from my supervisors.
When does your supervisor show up?
Here?
Uh-huh.
He doesn't come to the home that often.
So I got to go to talk to somebody who's on a public payroll who's going to tell me what's going on here who doesn't come here. In checking investigation reports made by the Department of Social Services, we found that the complaints against the home were true.
The majority of the problems that the neighbors have made have been corrected.
Gerald Provençal is director of the Macomb-Oakland Regional Center, the agency responsible for placing the retarded in these counties. Provençal told us that some problems have got to be expected, but Tamara House would be just as successful as the other 72 homes that they've set up. So we asked if we could go inside and see what the conditions were like now.
Yeah, we could work it out for you to go there.
The house was set up like any neighborhood home. It was clean, comfortable, really nothing out of the ordinary, and the 5 retarded men who lived there seemed very much at home.
The neighbors, however, have been extremely intolerant. We've moved 2 residents, for example. We've changed staff. We've increased the amount of social work time in that home and consultant time in there 300%. If we can't get a program that is virtually a model program by early this fall, you'll see some radical changes made.
Even with these changes, Mrs. Flavin still asks the question on many neighbors' minds.
Is it still fair to put a mini institution in a residential area?
We put homes in neighborhoods that are zoned for single families because the mentally retarded, like all of us, learn by modeling the behaviors of other people.
Well, the experts say that the kids just grow and blossom when they're placed into a home situation.
It has helped. I am personally involved with a person that has been in one of these homes for several years, and it's been the thing for her. It's been beautiful. But she's mentally retarded only. She is not extremely retarded as these are.
Mark Roby is 30 years old, diagnosed as profoundly retarded, considered to be hard to place. He lives with 5 other retarded men in Beck House, located in Novi. He spent 8 years in institutions, Lapeer and the Clinton Valley Center in Pontiac. Mark's parents, Jean and William Roby, are as fiercely in support of community placement as the Flavins are opposed to it.
What was your experience with your son in the institutions? What was it like for him and you?
That was a horror story.
At 18, they had him scheduled to go to the geriatric ward because he was a human write-off. He was going to be back-warded because there was nothing could be done with this boy. And it's interesting, and it reflects the thinking of the institution. He came out with a social worker to his first placement, and this man said, he'll be back in 2 weeks. That was 6 years ago.
Why? Because the guy felt he was incorrigible, or?
That's right.
Right.
That's right. He'd never make it.
He'll never make it
Never
in
make
society.
it.
So that his track record in the institution was perhaps not so much his track record in terms of what his abilities were, but what the institution did to him.
No question about that.
The abuse of the retarded at Plymouth Center for Human Development back in 1978 was one of the most stark examples of the inhumane conditions in the majority of large and small institutions. This is when the real push began to get the retarded into decent community settings. During the 1960s and 70s, community placement programs failed because zoning laws blocked homes from the better neighborhoods. In 1976, though, the Michigan State Legislature passed bills which allowed adult foster care homes with 6 or less people in residential areas zoned for single families. State Representative David Hollister, the sponsor of this controversial legislation.
People who would be very angry about hearing about Plymouth and seeing the abuse and neglect and children beaten and scars and cigarette burns, they would be horrified. You say, okay, the solution is to put that child in your neighborhood. We're going to close that institution now. We're going to put that child or these kids in your neighborhood. And they say, hold it.
Stop jamming it down our throats.
Reverend Kenneth Griffith agrees with the community placement concept, but is concerned about the staff, the quality of care, and the way the program is run.
We need to have a moratorium on the whole adult foster care mess until we've researched it out and checked it out.
Anytime you show me a problem, I'll say, good, let's work on it. But what I hear when people's got a problem, they say, that's the reason I don't want it here, and I'm not going to accept that. And the state's not going to accept that. People have a responsibility.
And people haven't had any interaction or contact. Most of the people that are so vocal about these homes have never even been inside a home. And they have to be educated. Maybe we as parents have just done a terrible job, but this is the first time that our kids have been able to come out and have the civil rights and human rights that other people take for granted. They don't fight. Others have to do the fighting for them, and others have to represent them.
What you're saying, in effect, is that by the luck of the genetic draw, mental retardation should not result in punishment.
That's right.
The Department of Mental Health has done an extremely poor job of educating the people of this state to what they were trying to do.
We found reams of information on all aspects of the program now available to the public, but there is still a lot of confusion and misunderstanding. At least some of the local units of government are partially to blame. This is a form letter from a township in Walled Lake notifying the neighbors that an application for a group home has been made. This is what is required by the law. But the letter refers to adult foster care only as AFC, and AFC is never explained. Nothing is said about the placement program. We called the township office about the letter, and we were told that they had fulfilled their responsibility.
I get the feeling that you don't consider that home next door to be, quote unquote, a normal home.
In a normal situation, you might have one or two in a family, and for whatever reason, a mother has put her child into this home next door, whatever it may be. She had one up. I have 6 that I have to listen to the screams and the yells.
They have a right to be out amongst us. They have some differences, no doubt, but my God, they deserve our sympathy. They deserve our attention. They deserve our patience and our love and some understanding. And I think that the community has an obligation to give all of those things to them.
I candidly think the state of Michigan is the villain in this one. The way they've gone about doing this and the way they are going to do it. They're hurting more people, I feel, than they're helping.
In the community home is the only way that he can live the most normal life possible. He's living with some dignity. He's living as independently as he can, and that's right.
I suppose if you feel there's no solution, you could move.
We built this house, and I planted every tree in this yard, and why should the state make me move out of my home?
This is a tough one. Most stories and most issues have good guys versus bad guys, but not this one. In this one, there are no villains. There are, for the most part, just good people caught between a human problem and a human effort designed to solve that human problem. Janet Flavin and Jean Roby are both coming from the same universal instinct. They are mothers wanting the best for their children. What the state of Michigan and Mrs. Roby feel are best for Mark Roby, Janet Flavin feels has changed her life, changed her home, the environment of her neighborhood, and now poses a threat to her daughters. I am left with 2 rather haunting thoughts from each of these mothers. From Mrs. Roby, should my son be punished because he was born this way? And from Janet Flavin, can you understand that their mothers were not able to handle one of them at home and had to institutionalize them, and now I have 6 of them living next door? She asked me, could you take that, Mr. Bonds? Well, frankly, I don't know. Mrs. Roby's question is, why should my son be punished? And my answer is, he shouldn't be. Perhaps the state should go back to the drawing board of this one. Perhaps the solution is not 6 living in one home, but 2, or at most 3. If it were your home and your neighborhood, how would you vote?